Some lessons are learned by living them, which is inconvenient because most of us prefer a warning label, a timeline, or at least a clear indication of when the understanding part kicks in. Instead, life just hands you the experience and lets you figure it out as you go. This episode is about trusting the process anyway. Welcome back to the GB Impossible is Just an Opinion. I'm your host, Jerry. New episodes drop every Thursday on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. And today you're listening to episode 9, Learning While It's Still Unfolding. This episode is about mistakes, not dramatic ones, not life-altering ones, the everyday kind, the kind that happen when you're paying attention, trying, showing up, and still realizing part of the picture is missing. This episode matters because it comes right before our season final. This one is about being inside the lesson. The final is about seeing what the lesson was building all along. As I was recording this episode, I realized something. None of what I'm talking about today stands on its own. Earlier this season, we talked about awareness, noticing patterns instead of reacting. Then, identity, separating who you are from who you learn to be. We moved into boundaries, not as walls, but as clarity. Stillness showed up when noise stopped being useful. Discernment followed, learning when to act and when to pause. And integration wasn't about change, it was about consistency. Episode 9 is what happens after all of that. It's the realization that learning doesn't stop once you're more aware. It actually gets more honest. There's a specific discomfort that comes from being in the middle, not lost, not stuck, just unfinished. You're doing the work, you're reflecting, you're being intentional, and still, nothing feels settled yet. That's usually when you start calling things mistakes. But presence asks a different question. What if this moment isn't wrong, just early? A lot of learning doesn't feel like progress while it's happening. It feels like pause. Where in your life are you rushing to understand something that might need more living first? Like I mentioned in episode 8, I've been reading and listening to meditations, and one line in particular grounded me. Marcus Aurelius writes that if we are distressed by anything external, it's not the thing itself that troubles us, but our judgment of it. That line reframed mistakes for me because it means the moment itself isn't the problem. It's the story we tell ourselves about it. So the examination became internal. What I'm telling myself about this experience, is that thought actually true? Or is it just familiar? Sometimes the work isn't fixing the situation. It's noticing when the mind is trying to rush meaning before it's ready. If you removed judgment from this moment, what would actually remain? This is where man's search for meaning landed deeply for me. Frankl talks about how meaning isn't something we create ahead of time. He says meaning is something we discover through how we respond to life, especially when we don't have the answers yet. He also says that when we can't change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. That changed how I see mistakes because it means learning doesn't require clarity. It requires presence. We often look back and say, I should have known. But the truth is, you didn't. You learned what you learned by living it. Acceptance doesn't mean liking the experience, it means stopping the internal argument with reality. What if you stopped asking whether you chose correctly and asked how you're choosing to respond now? If you've been listening from the beginning of the season, this part might feel familiar because awareness doesn't eliminate mistakes. It just makes you conscious while you're making them. Boundaries don't stop discomfort, they teach you how much to tolerate. Stillness doesn't remove uncertainty, it gives you space to hear yourself inside it. Growth didn't stop once you understood yourself better, it just moved deeper. Adlerian psychology, explored in The Courage to be Disliked, reframes mistakes in a powerful way. The book explains that our past experience don't define us. The meaning we give them does. That was freeing because it means a mistake doesn't label you. It informs you. Adler believed life is lived forward, not reviewed backwards. Mistakes don't mean you failed. They mean you participated. And participation is messy. There's no version of growth that comes without moments of second guessing, recalibrating, or realizing, okay, I didn't know that yet. Are you holding your past self to standards you only learned later? This season quietly changed how I move through my days. No big declarations and small awareness. I've also been reading The Courage to be Happy, which talks about how happiness isn't something you arrive at, it's something you practice. That stuck with me because learning doesn't wait until you feel finished. It happens while things still feel incomplete. Paying attention to where my time actually goes, where my mind drifts when I'm tired, how often I redirect instead of criticize. That kind of discipline is invisible, but it's foundational. What inner work are you doing right now that no one else sees, but you know matters? Looking back, I can see that every episode this season was preparing me for this realization. Not clarity, not answers, but the ability to stay present while something is still forming. This season wasn't about fixing anything, it was about learning how to sit with myself long enough to understand what mattered. Episode 9 sits here intentionally. After awareness, after identity, after boundaries, stillness, discernment, and integration. This is a moment you realize nothing was wasted. Not the pauses, not the confusion, not the mistakes. They were all part of the learning. Across philosophy and psychology, the message is consistent. Stoicism teaches restraint of judgment. Frankl teaches responsibility in uncertainty. Adler teaches courage without approval. And Carl Jung reminds us that we don't become whole by avoiding our shadow, we become whole by integrating it. That includes mistakes, confusion, unfinished seasons. Growth doesn't remove uncertainty. It teaches you how to stand steadily inside it. Think about any meaningful change you've made in your life. You probably didn't understand it while it was happening. You understood it later. That's not failure. That's how experience works. And this is the shift. You stop demanding answers too soon. You stop turning learning into pressure and start trusting that clarity will come not because you forced it, but because you stayed present long enough. If you're questioning a mistake right now, pause. Not to fix it, not to explain it, just to ask, what might this be teaching me that I can't see yet? What if understanding isn't missing just early? Episode 9 isn't about resolution, it's about allowing the lesson to finish unfolding. Next week, we close the season with the final, an episode called The Journey, a chance to step back and see how all of this fits together. New episodes drop every Thursday on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. This is the GB. Impossible is just an opinion. I'll see you next week.